Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nine Hole Podcast with Ian Miller. Today, man, I have an extremely special guest, somebody that I played under. He coached me my last year of pro ball, and he's had a crazy story. He's grinded through the minor leagues. Obviously, man, we'll touch on it a little bit, man. Griffin Benedict, what's going on, man?
Ian, good to see you, brother. Good to see you again. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And, anything that I can talk about today that might help anybody or answer any questions about minor league baseball or the process or what it looks like at the major league level or thought process, any questions that might come up, I'm just here to hopefully help out somebody.
Love that. Love that. So obviously here at the Nine Hole, we're here to like provide insight, info, experiences, just that would benefit the next generation of nine hole hitters. Dude, I played for you. You helped me out tremendously, tremendously. Still are. Man, like you saw who I was. You saw what kind of player I was, man. I lived and breathed the nine hole, right? Obviously, that's kind of what my capabilities were at the time, but I tried to embody it. Obviously, it's a little lifestyle now. So this was your second year this past year, um, coaching right wise in the big leagues, right?
Yeah, so I'll give you my background real quick.
Yeah.
I was drafted in 2009 out of Georgia Southern University. I played 2 years in the minor leagues and made a switch over in my second full spring training to be on the coaching side of things. I started bullpen catching and trying to get to know the staff and get to understand the other side of the ball there. And it was a really good opportunity for me to start learning. That was in 2011. I was around some wonderful people there, some major league managers now, and some really really smart and really really good people. And they taught me stuff, at 23 that I hadn't learned yet in the game and about life, about the way they went about their business and the way they approached the game and how they treated others. And that was my first time, having a paycheck in terms of making my way fully. Mine started a little bit later than a lot of guys, but I'll tell you what, I learned pretty early on that, you take care of people and you invest in people and you focus on character. And after that, then you can kind of get into the nitty gritty. But so I've open caught for several years in the major leagues. And then in a similar position, I stayed on with that role and I started to do base running. I started to do bunting. I started to do pitcher hitting. I started to do runner control. I started to do catching. That kind of morphed into more scouting positions in terms of advancing, looking at the other team, managerial reports, what they do, who they do it with, when they do it, type stuff. And then my day to day kind of morphed into how to beat the other team, what they have to offer, what we have to offer, and matching that up. I liked scouting. I was a catcher by nature, and so looking at the field and seeing the other eight guys the whole time, I think gave me a little bit of an advantage just as a baseball player to see the field the entire time. Most players that are on a corner or up the middle, their lens about the field is angled, and when you catch, it's wide open. So you see plays develop, you see things happen, you see how people move, and I think catchers really have a knack and a feel for the rhythm of the game because they have the advantage of seeing the whole play progress.
100%.
So, scouting for me, it was hard. It was difficult. What to worry about, what to look for, what to see, thinking about how much I missed. Paying attention to the details. That was a really really good part of my life and my career of trying to think about how we can beat the other team.
I love it.
After scouting, I started to do uh, pitching advance in terms of scouting reports, game planning, and I've done that for the last 2 years.
I love that. I love that, man. So basically, you've taken everything year by year that you've experienced, that you learn, and you've basically been able to, move up the ladder with it. Obviously, like having hands in every single aspect of the game, right? Being on a front office side or a coach side or a scout side, like having hands in all of that, having experience in all that, man, one day, is it the dream maybe to be a manager one day? Do you see that, in the future?
It's always crazy because when I was younger, I'm 36 now. In my early 20s, everyone kind of asked me throughout my career, like, what you want to do. And certain times I thought it was this, at other times I thought it was that. And the direction that I was going in was kind of leading me toward this. And then the next year I was doing something completely different. And the next year I did something totally different from what I was doing the year before. Um, I do think being goal oriented is positive and helpful. But for me particularly, it's almost like I got to a position where it's like I don't want to not necessarily get pigeonholed into something, but I was learning something. I wanted to do that, learn that, and be open for opportunities, and then look for another good opportunity. It wasn't that I had a
Love
bad
it.
opportunity before, but I just wanted to keep my mind open and keep my eyes open. Um, because if there was a good opportunity that came up, I wanted to be the guy to learn that and learn the next thing and learn the next thing. Just like in life, baseball, there's a lot of aspects to it. And,
Oh
we
yeah.
talk about players all the time, talk about being well rounded. Uh, you know, the scouts look at whether you can bunt, you can hit, you can run, you can hit for average. They talk about the tools, but as a teammate and as a coworker, I look back on my life and think about, one of the few things that I'm proud of is just being able to be a good teammate on a coaching staff and being able to learn something new, apply myself to it, and learn that and move forward.
Love it.
So moving forward in terms of my life about what I want to do in the end game, I'm sticking with my same motto that's kind of gotten me where I'm at is that I'm open, I'm ready to learn. If something pops up that I need to focus on and try to master, you never get there, but the idea to learn as much as you possibly can about a new subject, that's inspiring. That's kind of what turns me on.
Dude, I love it. So obviously, my time with you, I learned this. But just the way you explain that, right? Just being open to whatever comes your way. Um, this is something that we'll touch on a little later in the podcast, dude. You are like, I would get, mental advice, philosophical advice, from you, dude, in slumps. Like, obviously, you're very process oriented, right? Obviously, like having a routine, maybe having some sort of system in place to kind of elevate you. Dude, I love it. So obviously we're going to talk about that a little bit more going forward, but obviously with baseball just being so, I don't want to say crazy, but unpredictable. It's cool to be open, learn and kind of go where the game takes you. Right. I always saw, dude, I had this one goal, one dream, get to the big leagues. And then like if you want longevity in the league, dude, you got to be there by 23. And it's like, yo, I'm 23 and high A. I hit 250. Why am I not on the show? You know what I mean? Like unknowing, dude, if I was in the show, dude, if I was in the show when I wanted to be, right? Obviously, like it's out of my control, but oh man, it's crazy how everything kind of happens for a reason. I've had seasons ruined because of, being a mental midget. So it's cool to always hear you talk about that stuff, man. I love that. I'll be asking about stuff like that. So, you know, being in the big leagues, obviously having um, multiple roles and things that you were helping out with on a day to day basis. What is your day to day like? What is your day like being a coach in the big leagues? Obviously, you touched on your position this past year. It's like what is a schedule like? Like what is a day like? Maybe a home game, your schedule, what your activities are, and then maybe like what a player would do. I don't know.
Sure. It's going to vary depending on your position. It's going to vary depending on um, how many years you've had. And I don't
Mm,
say that because veterans are not required to prepare less. It's that the older you get, the more you understand your body and the more you understand your day. So a veteran or an older player might understand what his body needs to get ready more so than a younger player. In terms of routines, from a coaching standpoint, um, we talked about beating the other team. So the first day is always going to be a lot heavier for the guys that advance. So the coaches that prepare the team are going to work a lot harder the days prior to the series than they are. I always took it, my personal, approach to things is that my second day is kind of my double check, cover up, get a workout in, maybe walk in the outfield for 20 minutes. My second day of the series is where I catch my breath more so
Recover.
than days 1 and 3.
Got you.
So if we're opening up with a series, the first day of the series, I'm in there early. I'm not there at 7:30. I'm not there at 9:30. But if I have work to do, I'm in there early.
Yeah.
I get everything I need to do that day in terms of game planning, in terms of understanding are my playlists correct, or are my if what I'm going to say, does that match what I'm giving them on the iPad? Does that match what I'm going to do on the field? Just a mental approach to make sure that the actual scouting, the actual video, and a lot of staffs do it differently. I've been on staffs where there's a large meeting prior to the series and everyone goes around the room and talks about what they're going to do that day. I've been on staffs where everyone handles their own stuff. You do that, you give your own little meeting, you go through this, but each group, whether it's position players, pitchers, relievers, they're gonna meet a little bit that first day of the series and go over, get a feel for that other team. Some teams run, some teams don't run, some teams bunt, some teams don't bunt, some teams do it all, and some teams sit back and slug. So I think it's important just to have some sort of conversation in terms of what to expect with this team, how you're going to attack them, how you're going to use your strengths, what are their weaknesses, how we're going to exploit them. This is where we succeed. This is where we grind. This is what it looks like. So the first day of the series is getting all those X's and O's in place, talking about what we're going to do and how we're going to succeed. Where we are going to win and overcome. So throughout the day, obviously, anyone that's been in any sort of baseball, you have your BP, you have your infield, you have your this and that, and depending on whether you're on the home or road side, everything, the schedule's kind of set out for you, and it's just a matter of managing your time and being prepared to be able to back up what you want to say.
I love that. I love that, man. What? So let's just say a high school coach or a travel ball coach or a rec league coach. Maybe coaching like 14 to 18-year-olds, whatever it is, or a college coach. Anything, man. What kind of advice or just experience can you share to help them elevate their game? Maybe like something, dude. You're coaching in the big leagues. Like, what kind of advice can you share to the next generation of major league coaches?
I'll say this, Ian. I don't have any advice. I don't know if I've ever done it right. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I'd be happy to talk about what I've learned from.
Yeah,
Um, what I've learned from, especially when I was working with you and the boys over there, is that you need to be organized. If you're not organized, the players know it immediately, whether you're 14 or whether you're 28 or 36. So you need to be organized to establish purpose to the day. Otherwise, anything that you say, I'm not going to say that it's not trustworthy, but I think you're going to have a personal amount of less buy-in to what you're saying because if there's a sense of like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So
ah,
I'll give you a good example. You got pitchers that say you're 16 years old and you did base running on Tuesday and you practice on Thursdays and then you do first and third defenses and then you play Friday and then Saturday you do PFPs, but the guy made 2 errors on the mound on Friday. Whether it's right or wrong, there's a chance that the team is going to look at that we're doing PFPs because so and so goofed up 2 bunt plays on Friday. So, we talked about this, and especially throughout the minor leagues, and that stuff's going to happen. You can't avoid errors. You can't avoid mistakes. You can't avoid anything. Those are all learning opportunities that are going to naturally come up in the game of baseball and every other aspect of your life. But if you can get ahead of mistakes, I think that you're going to get a cleaner approach to the day, a cleaner effort from the day, and a cleaner buy-in from your players. Not a superficial kind where oh yeah, he's right. It's more of a preparation to where these kids are prepared for what's going to come up. So I'm not saying you knock everything out and once you just run through everything, but explaining things before you do it, explaining why you do it, and then the things that you do are not reactionary. So if you can think ahead as a coach, and we're working on it all the time. If you can think ahead and say, hey, there's going to be a time where we might get busted on first and third plays. Let's go ahead and hit that before it happens. We're not good at turning two. I don't want our pitcher to be throwing a gem in the sixth inning of a high school game with 1 inning to go, with enough pitches to finish it, and we goof up a double play.
Yeah.
Um, so, like I said, I'm not going to give advice, but learning from the past, if I could have been a little bit more organized or moving forward, I need to focus on being organized to make sure that we're hitting on good things, we're teaching good principles, and we understand what we're doing defensively, offensively, from a pitching standpoint, to the point where it's not reactionary after bad things happen.
I love it.
Because because when you teach, it's not punishment. I don't think it is at all. So anytime that you have an opportunity to teach and get ahead of things, I think that's kind of the focus for coaches moving forward.
It's fantastic, man. Love that. You've been on two playoff teams, right? You've made the playoff twice. What is one, like, what are the Major League Baseball playoffs like? Like, what is that atmosphere like? What is that intensity like? What is that, what does that feel like? But two, obviously, like, what is the difference between those teams that stink and the teams that make the playoffs?
Yeah. Well,
Not that stink, but that don't make the playoffs.
and that's the hard thing. Is like, if you don't, baseball's measured in wins and losses, and if you're a player, it's measured on your salary.
Mm,
That's just the way it is. Now you can be on a great team and have a really good year and be 12 games under 500. It's totally possible. The positives that you take away from that. Every situation is different. Every team is different. A lot of teams are rebuilding. A lot of teams, you never know. Now, but that being said, the game's measured in wins and losses. So you fight and you prepare and you work to have a chance to be in a playoff run. And that's what I didn't understand early on. I thought when I was young that, good teams make the playoffs. It's like that's just not in the major leagues, that's just not the case, in my opinion. The beauty of the playoffs is to put yourself in a position in spring training, you get ready to go. You grind, you get your body in position to start out hot. You maintain through the first couple of months. You beat the teams that you're supposed to be. You get lucky. You get hot. You battle through a couple slumps. You battle through some losses. Your teammates pick you up, and you work together. And then September comes, and you left in February. As you know, it doesn't come down to one day for me. And like I said, I learned this. This was late. I didn't know this. You work the entire year, and you think about all off season what it feels like to be in meaningful games late in the year. Not to make it after, not to celebrate after one game. The beauty of a major league season is that it is so long, and people look forward to it every single night because you play at the same time for the most part, all the
mm,
time. Every single night you're in some family's living room, and the beauty of it is to maintain that time and that effort and that health and consistent energy to be able to, when it comes down to it, those last couple of weeks where everyone's excited, that's when you want to be at your best. And that's what the playoffs are for me. Now, once you do win, then it's go time. And there's no, my back's tight. Everyone is full go. Everyone's so high on energy and excited and this and that. The playoffs, it's an atmosphere that you really experience outside of professional sports. But for me, and especially working with some young players and older guys, like you look at teams that have been in the playoffs consistently, they act the same every day. And teams that haven't had a lot of experience have to learn that.
A lot of ups
And
and downs.
that's just the way it is. Like you don't know what it's like, you don't know how to feel until you're there. And so the beauty of getting to the playoffs and being in playoff pushes and being there late in the season playing meaningful games, um, honestly, that's the goal for me. That's the goal for me as a fan, as a player, as a coach, as anybody that has to do with baseball is to be in a position to maintain your body and your work ethic and your mindset to where you're playing meaningful games all through September, and then it comes down to the wire. Somebody throws a good game, somebody gets a big hit, bam, anything can happen. Um, that's the exciting part for me, for sure.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, obviously, playing meaningful baseball is what you aim for,
Yeah,
right? Like,
and every day
man,
matters. And every day matters. But in terms of whether you're going to make the playoffs or not, it's like you watch the Masters. Everybody likes a little bit of golf, right?
yeah,
Dude misses a 6 footer, uphill a little left to right that he should make. He misses it on Thursday, but everybody talks about the putt on Sunday. It
yeah.
counts the same.
Okay,
Every game let's say you start playing in March, that game counts the same as the one on September 30th. They're all the same.
got you.
But all of a sudden, this game means more. Whereas we blew a game
Mm,
in April when we shouldn't have. And you're going to blow games. You can blow games all the time. That's part of the game. That's why you play 162 of them.
I like that.
But once you get to understanding the fact that like a consistent approach of like we're playing good baseball, we're going the right direction. That's when September starts to feel good because those are the teams that have had that mindset where everything that I do today counts. Today's and it is cliche, but when you look at it on a broad spectrum, what I mean, from bird's eye view, you look at how'd you do in April, how'd you do in June, how'd you do in July, how'd you do, you know what I mean? So you look at all this, and every team goes through these slumps. You look at all these good teams; they lost 6, 7 in a row. Some teams lose 11, 12 in a row. How do you come back from it? Or did you do enough in April to get you through those lulls?
Mm,
So every game it counts as one, whether it's in September or April.
I love it.
So and that's where a lot of experience counts, and that's why I was so happy to watch, some young teams. Not that I was rooting for anybody, but you see these young players playing in the playoffs, and they're getting experience, and everyone's starting to understand how important late season baseball is. Not because it matters, but it's because that they understand that every game matters, and they've been able to maintain their focus for 6 months.
I
I think
love it.
that's what's cool about baseball
I love that.
to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the top players, man, obviously, like as you said, not necessarily the best teams make it to the playoffs. It's a long season. It's a long grind. 162 games. Man, those the top players that you've been around, coached, been in locker rooms with, not like what did those top players possess? Like what characteristics, traits, how do they go about their business? How do they go about their work? Like, dude, what sets them apart from the pack, man?
I've never been one, so I don't know. But
What have you
uh,
seen?
from what I've seen, it's the consistency of this thing. Everyone says that Derek Jeter's the most clutch hitter of all time. I don't doubt that at all. Like I marvel at Derek Jeter for what he did in his career. But if I had a chance to ask Derek Jeter what he did, I bet he did the same thing in a big moment as he did in a little moment.
Oof.
And I think that's what consistency is. When you look at good players versus great players, they have 7 good at quality ABs out of 10, and the guy that's just behind him has 6. So you multiply that by 600. If you have a good AB or 60,
Yeah.
you look at, let's say you get 350 at bats, and you give one away, and the other guy doesn't. Now you do that over 6 months.
Oof.
That's a big dip in average. That's a big dip in WAR. That's a big dip in on base. That's a big dip in RBIs. Um, it's hard to do, and that's what's hard about it, is that it takes so much focus 10 out of 10 times, because you're going to fail. That's the beauty of it. You're going to fail, but if you can succeed just one more at bat, and I think conversations that you and I had one time about, um, I think you were 1 for 3 going into your fourth at bat, and we talked in the dugout about the difference of having a really good day and an okay day. Kind of relies on that last at bat. You're 1 for 3 with a walk and a stolen base.
Oh.
That's a good day.
Oh.
You're 1 for 4 with a stolen base and a punchy. It's it's different. It's different.
Yeah, it is.
So there's an instance where one at bat changes your day,
Mm,
but you don't know when that one at bat's going to come. And I know you and I talked a lot about, you never know when your most important at bat of the game is going to be. It might be the first swing of the game. It might be your fifth at bat. You go into extras, it might be your sixth at bat, and you're 0 for 5, and you got to find a way mentally to realize that your most important at bat of the day is your sixth at bat after 5 failures. And so that type of mindset, for me, those guys that are so consistent in their work ethic and their mindset, obviously, there's talent involved. But when you compare major leaguers to major leaguers, you can see that some players are statistically or athletically more talented than others in terms of their tools.
yeah.
So everyone's talented. Anyone that's ever played in the major leagues is an unbelievable baseball player. Unbelievable. And I think that kind of goes unnoticed. I think there's still only 23, 24,000 players to ever play in the big leagues. You think about everyone that's ever played baseball, and you think there's only 24,000 of them that played in the big leagues. And I'm not 100% sure on that number, but I know it's pretty low.
I think you're right, man.
So when we talk about, oh, this guy's not a good baseball player, like he's hitting two whatever, it's like, that type of commentating, it's just not true.
It's crazy.
Relative to guys that hit 360, that's where that comparison, they can compare those two players in terms of their on base and their average. But anyone that's ever played in the big leagues is a phenomenal baseball player. So everyone has talent. And some guys have more talent than others. I mean, you watch guys that are faster than others. You guys watch guys that just know how to hit the ball and get on base, and then they steal second. You know what I mean? It looks easier for some guys than it does others. With that being said, there's still a lot of guys that play in the big leagues that don't do that. And that's the kind of the beauty. The cathedral of the baseball field is that there's contributors everywhere. And that's what's cool, is that you can contribute. If you can find a way to contribute to a 26-man roster, you can play in big leagues. And
Yeah.
that's what's cool about it. But the things that I've seen in terms of elite players, there's confidence.
Okay.
I've never seen a really, really good player that didn't have confidence. I don't know if that came before the talent, or before the success, or after the success. Um, all of them, all of them have an incredible work ethic. All of them have an incredible work ethic. That in when you talk about like people that are extremely successful, and there's a lot of different ways to be successful, in my opinion. But you look at some baseball players, and from the normal fan view, it's like, oh, he puts his socks on, this way, he's weird, da da da. It's like, I don't think the CEO of these Fortune 500 companies are your everyday neighbor either. I don't think that like everyone that's extremely successful are like all straight shooters. I think they all have quirks. I think they all have idiosyncrasies that makes them work. And I think that's what's important, is finding out what does make you work, and developing a work ethic
Mm.
that supplies your confidence. and being able to adapt because the game changed last year and we saw a bunch of different rule changes and players were able to adapt and take advantage of it. Let's say there's four more. Let's say people go on strike and we got to wait a year.
Yeah.
Or who's going to be ready the next year? The life in baseball is always going to give you quote unquote like curveballs or whatever to deal with. But the people that can adapt and adjust and they can continue to do this. But there's one thing that I will say is that uh, the term teammate, I've never really seen a bad teammate because you
Mm,
can define it in so many ways. You get on the field and everyone has these stories about these guys that like, hey man, I didn't like him, but I want him on my team. That's positive. He was a great friend to me. He didn't do much on the field, but he was a great friend to me and he helped the clubhouse. That's a positive.
hmm.
Everyone always has an intangible. All these great players and good players, and everyone that plays in the big leagues have some sort of intangible that really sets them apart. And you can explain like that's why that guy's here because he does something extremely well. Might be getting on base, might be hitting homers, might be hitting 3-run homers in the seventh. There's a lot of guys that do that. But all of them have some sort of intangible that they're good at. They've understood what they're good at. They've worked to get better at it.
Mm.
They've worked to cover up some of their mistakes and some of their inadequacies and gotten better at it. Um, but like I said, the consistency and the mindset of doing the same thing, whether it's game one or game 175, they go about their business the same way. They have routines that they've built in. They understand that works for them. They listen to their bodies. They're good teammates. They listen to their teammates. They're part of something that's bigger than them. They want to be a part of something that's bigger than them, and they outwork everybody. Their talent is spread pretty worldwide. Um, Opportunity with talent is in baseball is spread pretty worldwide, and then what you do with it's up to you.
I love it. I love it. That fires me up, man. So, like, early on in my baseball journey, early on in my baseball career, I was able to identify, like, hey, like this seems like a pretty cool thing, that I'm interested in, that I'm pretty decent at, that I can maybe, make a career. Obviously, I was like, I think the word's underimposing, right? I was tiny, underimposing. Pretty sure that's the word, dude. Might not be, whatever. But like, I wasn't a physical specimen, right? I was a late bloomer. So it was kind of like blind faith, dude. Obviously, I eventually matured. I grew into it. I worked into it. And I had kind of like that unwavering faith, right? But I had it early. It was a passion. It was an obsession. It was a mindset. It was everything. Um, to those future major leaguers, those kids that dream of success, dream of being, Derek Jeter that we were talking about, being in the major league playoffs, all this stuff. Like, what kind of things can maybe drop them that they don't know yet, that they have no idea about the game of baseball, what they're going to experience, the trials, the tribulations. Like, these kids are wide eyed right now, thinking that this is the dream. This is the dream right now. What can you hit them with?
Well, everyone wants to play in the big leagues, and it's extremely hard to play in the big leagues, but people do. You know what I mean? Why not? Why isn't it your neighbor? If you're going to be the one and whatever, why is it not you? Why not be the one? Just because the odds are small, I don't think that should limit you to do anything. If anything's hard in life, marriage can be hard. The death of a family member is hard. You're going to be faced with hard things your entire life. So I wouldn't shy away of that just because the numbers, But when you're young and you want to play in the big leagues, then I would learn as much as possible as you possibly can and work as hard as you possibly can. And then you find out either you do or you don't. And one thing that I realized is that everyone has their like the big leagues is different for everyone. And I'm not saying people can't exceed or not surpass their talent level, their opportunity. It happens all the time. I was friends with a lot of guys coming through the minor leagues that were drafted in the 32nd round and played 9-10 years in the big leagues. it's unbelievably doable in terms of like the possibilities. Now the odds are not good if you look at the whole. I mean, if you're a numbers guy and you look at the odds, but it's totally doable. People have done it. But one thing that I do want to understand as an adult, and I look back on my career and I look back at my life and I look back at other kids that are coming up, is that not making the big leagues is it's not a failure. It's not a failure at all because everyone has their own big leagues. So if you're maxed out, you're maxed out. That's just how it is.
Like your talent, like as far as
Yeah,
you can take it.
that's it. There's no shame in that. There's nothing to be feel. You went as far as you could go athletically. A lot of times it's health related. It's body related, it's chance related. The amount of things that have to go into somebody making the major leagues, there's timing, there's health, there's talent, there's opportunity, there's luck,
Opinion, everything on top of it,
opinion,
man.
opinion. There's 20 things that go into it. And I mean, I'll get busy watching these shows about these people that climb, K2 and Mount Everest and this stuff, and they did it right. They did everything right. They climbed up there, and the storm hit, and it lasted for 7 days. And somebody's like, "We're not making it." Did they fail? They got to the fourth base camp, where the fifth is the tip.
Dude,
They didn't fail.
no way. No
They
fail
didn't
there.
fail. They just didn't get to the top. And so, like, when I look at baseball, it's like, dude, you can have a wonderful career and never make the big leagues. I think it's important to understand, like, if you put your effort and your life and your work into something and you do everything you can to it, and you take it as far as it goes, that's your big league. That's the big leagues.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, on TBS at 7. So I think it's really important to understand, like, moving forward. I didn't even come close to the big leagues, but my big leagues, personally, was getting a chance to get on a staff and understanding a service mindset and lighting a candle for somebody else. The beauty in that, like, that's my big leagues. And I'm super blessed and happy to have that opportunity. And I'm going to keep doing it and keep building bridges for anybody else that wants to go that way. But I don't see myself as a failure whatsoever. Now, my playing career doesn't look good. In the term in baseball, young coach means bad player. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to come to grips with your effort level. You have to come to grips with what's going on in your life, where you're at. Some people are in different positions all the time, but understanding what your big leagues are. And I think one of the keys to my life was being a good or a decent self-evaluator. I mean, if you can honestly self-evaluate, I think your mental outlook and your mental health is going to be a lot better, because then what you'll focus on are the good things about, hey, man, I worked, I tried, my effort level, my work ethic, my attitude was on point. What you're going to learn from those situations will lead you to success in some other capacity,
I
whether it's
love that.
marriage, whether it's work, whether it's life, whether it's being a father, being whatever it is. But so that,
That
like I
was
said,
next. That was
I'm,
next. I was gonna say, how would these like future major leaguers prepare for like success? What would be some of the things that you touched on, like enjoying, being grateful for every opportunity that you're given, right?
yeah.
Man, you want to give back. I mean, like what kinds of things can they do to prepare for success, like the next wave of future major leaguers?
I was lucky enough when I was a kid, and I won't talk about this too long. I don't want this to be a soapbox, but did you play other sports, dude? If you think baseball is it, then play another sport. Because what you're going to learn with body control, what you're going to learn with balance, what you're going to learn with eye hand, what your body's going to be more physical to be able to do. I see some kids get real involved early, which is good. I don't have any problem with it. But I just do see a positive in doing other things as well. Because in what's hard, as any professional knows, as you know, you have to separate yourself. When you have kids and you go to work, you can't think about your kids all day. You think about them
Mm,
all day, but you have to separate. And when you come home, it's even more important that you separate work from your home life. So even at an early age, I think it's very beneficial. Play other sports, learn different skills, have your body move in different motions, side to side, back and forth. And then when you get on the field in spring, then let it rip.
yeah,
I think for like younger kids, middle school especially, even high school, play two sports. Play two sports, be on a different team, be around different dudes. If everybody that you're talking to is talking about their new A2K and talking about, inside and out balls and launch angle and where they're dropping their elbow, it's like, dude, you can't do that for 12 months in a row. It's not healthy. Nobody can do that. Get into wrestling, dude. Get into lacrosse. Get into a winter sport. And that's another thing, dude, I wanted to say, like, from a scouting perspective, I'm not saying that, like, I'm a scout. I'm not, but I know scouts. And if you're good, they will find you. It doesn't matter. If you're good, they will find you.
I
They
love it.
will. They will. You don't have to make the best traveling team of all time. Now, if you do, it's a great opportunity to play against some of the best and you can gauge yourself and understand what's going on and prepare you for the next level. It's awesome. I'm all for it. But if you don't and you turn out good later, they're going to know. It's not like that's your chance when you're young. If you're good, they will find you.
Amen.
So I don't want anyone to get discouraged coming up through the ranks of saying, like, well, I didn't get on this traveling team. That don't matter. When I was in eighth grade, dude, I was on it was called the Peanut Squad. I might have told you this story.
Ah, you didn't.
I did or I
Peanuts.
didn't?
You didn't.
Okay, dude. So I was on this Peanut Squad, and it was seventh and eighth grade football. And after the football game, there was a 10-minute period where they let everybody else play. That like wasn't that was a it was 10-minute running clock, like the game was over. you know, but like they just wanted to give an opportunity for the parents who came and like drove over the game to like watch their kids play.
Okay.
So on ninth grade, I was like,
Peanuts.
yeah, I was like the 17th string running back. Okay, so I'm like running a route in practice one day, and like I missed it by 35 feet, and I throw it back, and the coach is like, "Hey!" And he like makes me come over there. I start taking snaps, and I ended up being good. But that didn't happen till I was in ninth, 10th grade. So it's like so I wasn't good in seventh grade. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be good. Everyone blooms differently. You look at a garden, dude. You see all kinds of flowers. So like when we talk about travel ball, when we talk about kids, we talk about high school, we talk about college. Do you think Paul Goldschmidt? He wasn't a good player out of Texas Southern or Texas State. Guy's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. Like you know what I mean? If you're good, I think he went to whatever school he went
I get
to.
what you're saying. I get what
You
you're
know what I
saying.
mean?
Yeah,
But like if you're good, it doesn't matter when you come out of it. Like they'll find you.
for sure.
So just focus on what you're doing, focus on getting better, and focus on what you love to do. And I think playing another sport early on helps that
I
because you don't
love
get
it.
burned out, and you learn body function, you learn skills, you learn balance, you learn technique, you learn everything else that you wouldn't learn that's necessarily for your sport that will help you in your sport.
Mm,
You know
dude,
what I'm saying?
Randy Johnson was on here saying the same thing a few months back, man. Said he was a basketball player. Obviously, he was a pitcher. He said, man, he learned a lot, stability, core, balance, obviously the athleticism was heightened. He said that he learned a lot playing other sports, playing basketball. Said it gave his arm a chance to like breathe, right? Like, dude, throwing 12 months
Yeah,
out of the year. I don't even know. I don't even know. But
dude, it's hard, man.
yeah, like obviously there are some physical things these players can do. Obviously, you want to be physical. There's going to be some type of physicality to it, mindset wise. Um, obviously, like kids, younger athletes, players, college players, minor league, whatever it is, they go through mental lapses, right? You struggle, you go into slumps, your mind goes everywhere. Then you're in the like, oh shit, you know what I mean? How do I get out of it? I've been there, wheel spinning, dude. You've been there with me. I've been there, and you've talked me off a ledge. Like
Dude, I've been in.
everybody.
I've been there mentally. I've been there physically. I've been there as a player. I've been there as a coach. I've been there as a dad. I've been there as a husband. I've been there as a teammate. Dude, you're going to fail, and everyone you can find 5 million books about how to get out of failure. I don't know which of them work, which of them don't. I think it's individualized to the person. But I think we talked about this before. Is that nobody ever talks about how to deal with success. All we ever talk about is how to deal with failure, which to me is inherently negative. And I learned this from one of our pitching coaches that I used to work with, whom I loved. But he taught me that coaching is inherently negative because everything that you look at is you're fixing something. So everything that your brain is trained to do is to solve a problem. Something's wrong. So as a coach, or as a peer, as somebody who onlooks, everything, like your entire lens is negative. It's negativity based. So as a player, knowing that you're going to fail through everything, how do you get out of that? How do you maintain? One thing that I would suggest is counting on your routine. If you go through the same routine, and I'm not talking about superstitions, I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about preparation. If you go through the same set of like, hey, this is when I warm up, I get my body activated. This is what I run through some mental stuff in my head the night before, in the morning, whether it's at breakfast, whether it's whatever you want to do, whatever fits your personality, is finding a general loose routine that gets you in a mindset that that, okay, I did this when I did well. So that gives me the confidence that if I do that again, then I could perform well again. That's what's cool about it. And when you do fail, when you're in a slump, you can look back and say, well, I did the same thing when I was doing well. I know that that works. So I know that I'm about to get out of it.
Yes.
So routines
Oof.
are extremely important in terms of knowing how to succeed and knowing that you're only going to fail for a little bit. More so than normal, more so than the average baseball player does, just because of the numbers. Um, I mean, I've seen the best closer that I've ever seen, best closer in National League history, doing sprints down 14-1 in the seventh inning. And it's like, dude, he's not pitching today. Sure as shit, dude. 15-14, guess who's ready?
He's in there.
So, people adjust to their situation or people prepare for any situation. And I think that's where the beauty of routines come into play, whereas that you prepared your body mentally, that you prepared your body physically, and whatever comes, I'm going to be in a good spot. I'm going to have a good mindset about it, and I'm going to view it as an opportunity. Everything's an opportunity. I've learned this from golf over and over and over. If I stand on the tee box, dude, and I look at that trap or I look at the water, I'm not hitting in the fairway.
That's right. No, no
If I
chance.
if I focus on the negative, dude, because I'm not a psychologist, but I do understand that when you say don't, your brain doesn't understand the negative. So when you stand on the box, you say, hey, you get in the box or you toe the slab and you say, hey, what a good opportunity for me right here. That's much different than saying, okay, don't hang this thing.
Yeah. Oh shit.
And like we talked about before, I don't know, like I said, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how many studies are out there that say that positivity works. But I know there's a lot of communications that I've had that says negativity doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that.
I think getting in a good frame of mind, having a routine, having good self talk, and going about it and thinking of everything that comes up, whether it's a tryout, whether it's playing against your rival, whether it's an at bat in the seventh, ninth, you think, hey man, what a good opportunity this is for me. Let's dig in right here.
It's
That's
powerful.
different than saying, I need to get a hit. I need to get this ball
Yes.
down. This kid can hit. I need to get this slider in the dirt. 0-2. Because
Defensive.
you see it every game, dude. It happens all the time, and it's human nature. They throw two good sliders, pitchers strike one right down the middle, work that other one a little right to left, get to the corner. The next one, they're like, all right, I need to make this nastier, and they hang it.
100%.
What needed to happen on that third strike that didn't work on the second strike? When you try to do too much, all you need to do is focus, lower your sights a little bit, throw the same pitch. That's something that experience and maturity will teach you, and failure will teach you. But being in a good frame of mind and thinking, what a good opportunity this is for me right here. Like, I worked to get to this. What a good opportunity for me. Okay, let's go.
I love it.
That
Oh,
that's for, like, anybody for me. But that's what's worked for me. But like a young kid that's going into a situation, no matter what it is, test, date, dance, 1-2 slider. Dude, what a good opportunity.
I
Because
love it.
the beauty of it is because you're going to win no matter what. If you fail, you have a chance to reflect and learn from it. And if you succeed, you're confirmed
Oh,
in what you've done. You've had your affirmation, like, all right, what I'm doing works. Bang. You tell
oh,
that kid to get a new one because it's over the fence. Like, you've won there. But if you fail, but you're in the right mindset, you're like, okay, now I need to adjust. I need to pivot a little bit. And then I learn from it and I move forward. And the next opportunity, guess what? Bam, I'm back. What another good opportunity.
that's right. Learn
I've
from the
learned from my
mistake.
last one. I've learned from my last at bat. I've learned from my last one. But if you go into at bats, you're swinging 3-0 and you try to do too much and you fly out, what did you learn? Yeah, you learned not to do that. You already knew that. You didn't learn anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's why I like the mindset of, like, all right, what a good opportunity for me right here.
that's fantastic. So some of the things that I talk about with these teams, these players, these hitting facilities, coaches, man. We talk about the power of the mind a little bit. So some people have been on here talking about it. Obviously, we touched on it a little bit, but something that we talk about with younger players is almost like, man, your thoughts can influence the outcome. Almost that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy, but if you break it down a little bit, your thoughts can influence your effort, your attitude. Your effort and your attitude can directly affect your performance. What happens? You go out there with a shitty attitude or like a negative mindset, or man, you don't want to be there today. You're showing poor body language. I mean, what's the percentage of success, um, like that you think the outcome's going to be in your favor? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
And not over time. It's not going to go well because, and like I said, I'm not a psychologist. I'm trained by Instagram and books. You know what I mean? I am
Yeah.
not a well-studied man. But what I have learned in my experience is that when you think about things positively, and I'm not talking about like stupid optimism, I'm not talking about unrealistic, I'm not talking about anything like that. Um, I would say that my personality, my belief system, and whether I can control it or not, I'm usually right in the middle, and sometimes even almost negative. And I had a good buddy, played in the big leagues for a long time, and he always talked about the power of positive thought. I didn't know what that meant. Um, but as I get older, and I found this out because one year I didn't have a job. So I had two kids, no insurance, and I didn't have a job. I was going to find a
No.
job. This was a couple years ago. So I spent all off season not getting paid, not having insurance for my kids. And, it's kind of coming down to the wire here. Like, everybody, the time's passed. Like, everybody's already signed. And I talked to my wife about it, and she was like, she brought up something that I had never thought about. And she said, like, you need to think positively about this, because if you're positive about it, you might be more open to reach out to somebody that you haven't yet. Your mind might be a little bit more open. Your heart, your brain, whatever it is, your
Yeah.
soul might be a little bit more open to reach out, talk to others, attack an avenue that you haven't yet. But if you're negative, you just kind of stay in this closed, woe is me.
Yeah,
just dread. And the more I read about it, and the more I talk to people, dude, I think it's 100% true. If you're, I don't know much about how the brain works, but what I think is that if you're positive, you see other positive. I think your brain is guided and it's directed to do what it's told. So when you wake up in the morning, you say, man, whoever you talk to, you say, hey, man, thanks for my blessings. I'm going to have a good day today. And you walk out and you're like, oh, nice, whatever, eggs. And you get eggs. And then you notice a flower. And then you notice that place, the new business just opened on the way to whatever. And then
yeah,
you start to notice once you get in a positive frame of mind, your brain is naturally inclined to be directive. So your brain, if you start out positive, the rest of the day, you're going to constantly notice positives.
I love it.
And if you're negative, guess what? You're going to constantly notice the negatives. And everybody knows this in their personal life, which was it was a great metaphor for me. It's like everybody's been around people that like if somebody did something, if somebody bit their nails or whatever, it doesn't bother you. But if somebody you didn't like bit their nails,
Oh,
it would drive you crazy.
disgusting.
But see, you have a negative mindset towards that person or towards that energy or whatever. So then you notice everything negative because
Sticks out.
you've directed your brain to focus on that. And like I
Ooh,
said, I could be making this up, but dude, it works for me. And I've talked to a lot of people and it works for them. But once you start focus on finding the good, you notice more good. And
amen.
once you start focusing on the negative, you notice more negative. And then it's harder to get out of that. So in terms of baseball, you and I talked about one of your boys that used to coach. You talked about having a couple ticks or a couple clicks a day, whether that's a stolen base, move a runner,
Yeah.
get a bag, get a sack fly, get a hit. Those are all widgets. Those are all one little ticks. You knock up one or two ticks a day. That's positive thinking. How did you impact the day? That's positive. And you start focusing on that, and then you notice all the good things. You notice, hey man, I didn't even know it, but I wanted 6 or 8 more reps in the outfield. Feel good. I didn't feel real good breaking back to my left. I didn't like that drop step, but I worked on it today. Didn't show up in the game, but I felt good about that. Dude, that builds, dude. It's exponential. How you
Compounds.
can build and compound on good effort, good exercise, good processes, however you say that. But then, dude, and then as you get older, you start to understand the science behind it. And then, as a scout or as a coach or as a teacher, as anybody, you start to look for it. And you're like, man, that guy does that. And like, oh
Mm,
man, I don't know why I like that guy, but he's a good player. And what he probably does is that he stays positive, he stays moving, he stays aggressive. He's probably in a good mindset. You know what I mean?
makes a ton of sense. Makes a
I
ton of
think
sense.
that's what if you fail, you go 0 for 9, in 3 games and you're punched out 6 times, there's a lot of negative to focus on. There's a lot of result based orientation there. But if you are process oriented and and you're noticing all the good things that you did, those dudes jump out of slumps.
Ooh, dude, my best year, my best years in baseball. If I pulled out an 0 for 9, right? My best years in baseball, statistically, mentally, physically, st- everything. Um, I'm 0 for 9. It doesn't affect the 10th at bat. I'll catch those 0 for 9s, dude. Everybody's going to catch an 0 for 9, but being able to not let it screw up the 10th at bat, influence the 10th at bat, I automatically take the bat out of your hand before you get in the box, right? You're like, shit, got this 10th at bat coming, dude. I'm 0 for 9. What's another one, dude? What's another one, right?
Right?
We talked about it. You give those ABs away over the course of a 6-month season. That could be the difference between 300 and
Right.
275, maybe. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But like that could be the difference, dude. That could be
Yeah.
the
You
separator.
hit 268 and you talk about how many times you lined out.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
Or what a good opportunity. I like this kid, dude. I banged this kid last time I saw him. I like that slot he's coming out of. This kid's done, dude.
Amen.
And dude, I talk about this in all my catching work is that like we talk about being a teammate, you talk about having a service mindset. I tell all my catchers and everybody that I've ever tried to work with and learn from is that I can't know if you're 4 for 4 or 0 for 4
Ooh.
because you're telling me I know right away because I'm watching you. That's all I'm doing is watching you. All I'm doing is watching you. I'm not doing anything, dude. I'm spitting seeds over here watching you. And you're letting me know that you're 0 for 3. So do you
Body
think the
language.
kid that's nervous coming out of the pen wants to throw to you, knowing that that
You're
you're
not gonna you're not
putting off
gonna
negative energy like
yeah,
that?
you're not gonna be blocking balls in the dirt,
Nah,
best
probably
effort.
not. Probably not. Probably
Yeah.
not. So you can be in that like you look at a player or you look at a kid and you go through about it and you're like, man, dude, I like the way this guy goes about his business. If you went through that and broke it down why, I bet a lot of that is because you never know what he did his last at bat.
That's fire. That's fire.
I don't know that, but I'm saying there's a good chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, we are I got two more questions for you.
Dude,
Um,
keep them coming. I'm happy to be here.
I love it. Man, what does the nine hole mean to you? So when you think about a nine hole hitter, characteristics, qualities, like what kind of person do you think about when you think about a nine hole hitter? And like what type of player that is, what he is to you?
I think first of all, it's somebody that's earned his right on the team. You know what I mean? It's no one drafts a 9 hole hitter in the first round and puts him say, "Hey, this is our 9 hole hitter." I mean, it could have happened, but I haven't experienced it. Uh, towards the back end of the lineup, I look at guys that can turn the lineup over. Somebody that has a good at bat. Um, I think expectations are different for the type of player that you're talking about. The 3, 4, 5 are supposed to drive in runs. First guy's supposed to get on base. Second guy's supposed to hit a fastball and be able to understand when to take so we can steal second, maybe move a runner. Third guy's supposed to be your best hitter, whatever. These old standard baseball rules. 4, 5, 6 have an opportunity to leave the park, drive the ball into the gap, get some runs. 7, 8, 9 are defensive players. Maybe they can hit. Maybe they strike out a bunch, but they hit 28 pops. Or maybe they earn their way on the team for something. So I think defining who you are as a player and understanding yourself, and you start talking about like what we talked about earlier about being a good self evaluator. And one thing we talked about earlier, it and this is a cliche, but it's a metaphor, but I think it works. If your talent is this circle, right, and you constantly try to do stuff that's outside of your talent level, outside of your ability range, your circle, your ability, your output is never going to get any bigger. But if you continuously stay within what you're good at and work on things, your circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger
Oh,
and
I
bigger
love
and
that.
bigger. So now all of a sudden you get your AB. It's 6 to 4 in the six, and there's 2 outs, and the dude throws the first pitch heater down the middle. Now you can leave the yard. You've earned that by doing and doing your job of earning your spot in the lineup, about playing hard, about getting on base, about making, being the hardest out in the lineup. Because like from a scouting perspective, when we look at teams that like, hey man, here's our break in the lineup. And the good teams don't really have any breaks. In the major leagues, everyone's a major league hitter. So like there's no pushovers whatsoever.
Yeah.
But there's, on certain teams, there's situations where like, okay, these are their dudes. They position their lineup that way, and everybody knows who they are. And you can look at the salary and the payroll to understand who they are. But if the hardest at bat from a pitching standpoint, not most likely for damage, not any of that. If the hardest at bat, if I'm going to have to throw 10 quality pitches to this kid, that ruins scouting reports, that ruins game plans, that ruins everything from the defensive and pitching side.
Being a hard out like that.
If you can make your point, no matter where you're hitting the lineup, but especially down at the bottom, you want to turn the lineup over, you want to get on base, draw a walk, maybe get this guy on base, whatever, move a runner. If you're the hardest out that he's going to face that day, it doesn't matter if you are or not. But if that's your mindset, you can put up 3, 4 quality ABs, play a good defense, and find your spot on the team, knowing that, like, hey, dude, this guy locks it down. He's the hardest out we have.
Yeah.
It's incredible, dude, because everyone has holes, everyone has this and that. But from a pitching standpoint and a game planning standpoint, if I know I'm going to have to grind against this kid, because a lot of major leaguers will say, hey, brother, just get on base. I don't want to waste 10 pitches on him.
100%.
I'll give you something to hit. Bang, here's a single. Next thing you know, gap or you score from first. Now it's 1-0 in the first. Or, in the third.
Yeah.
Probably if you're in the 9 hole, now it's 1-0 in the third.
It's
Now
power.
he's got to rethink the way that he approaches you. And the next at B, you take 9 pitches, you fly out to center field, whatever. But you've gotten on base, scored a run, and you've seen 14 pitches in the 9 hole. Does the 9 hole matter? It's the 8 hole, 7 hole, 6 hole, whatever. But that mindset about it doesn't matter if you're in the 3 hole or the 9 hole, you can impact the game. You
Yeah.
have your ability, you have the same at bats as everybody else. Now, the top of the lineup's probably going to get 1 or 2 more, of course, of the series, because of the numbers. But I think that the scrappy guys, the guys that fall to the end of the lineup because of what they're good at, then accentuate it. Just take pride in it. Live it, dude. That's you. That's you. Embrace it and be like, yo, dude, I'm the best 9 hole in the league. Why not? We talked about players that want to make the big leagues. Somebody's going to make it. Somebody wins the lottery every time. The odds are not good. Somebody wins.
Why not me?
Yeah, why not me? Why not be the hardest out in your lineup?
Regardless of
Yeah.
where you're.
No, regardless. Now, a lot of those guys are defensive guys in the major leagues, but a lot of those guys are fast, and it's like, hey, now I got two leadoff guys.
100% dynamic right there.
Yeah, so understanding, be a good self-evaluator. Say, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is how I can help us win the game, and then understand because of what I'm good at, this is how I impact the game, and then execute. That's the thing. It's like, oh, coach has got me in the 9 hole. That means I'm the worst hitter. How do I impact the game no matter where I'm at? Because the next day you might be hitting 2. So does that change your approach? Now you're in the 2 hole, and now you're like, oh, geez, now I got to be able to stay on the fastball. Now I got to ground out to second to move a guy over.
Same preparation,
No,
same.
you have to find a way that you and your game work to impact the game to help your team win because you're trying to beat the other team. So if you're hitting ninth, third, first, seventh, where do you fit in? What does your skill set provide? How can you implement that to impact the game so that you guys win and walk out?
I love it.
That's what I think. But
That's fantastic, man. That's probably the best answer I've gotten. Um, Last question here, dude, I got for you. So obviously, we talked about your background, your history, the career. Like you, dude, you've been around. You've been around multiple teams, multiple levels. Dude, like you're a student of the game. You keep learning. We've talked about it. Like you're always trying to build, always trying to get better, day in and day out. Along the way, you're gonna come across some stuff that's beneficial for you. You're gonna learn from it, be able to take pieces here and there. Dude, some of like the literature, some of the books that you've come across
dude,
throughout your grind, like what could benefit the next generation of baseball players, the next generation of coaches, like anybody who's in the game that what have you come across a book wise, man? If you got something to share.
when I was 17, I played on this travel team, and it was the best 17-year-olds in the state. And we went and played against a bunch of the other states, best 17-year-olds. And it's like, okay, you talk about a barometer. You know what I mean? I was catching. There's a future Hall of Famer playing short, first rounder at first rounder and right. Like dudes, all the
It's
first
insane.
rounder, first rounder uh, catching in front of me. Dude, I hit like 386 with 3 homers. Threw out a bunch of guys. Like, dude, I was bad. Dude, I played great. This other catcher, dude, hit 10 homers. was throwing 1/8 a second, dude.
Oh,
And I'm looking around. I'm like, dude, is this what baseball looks like? Like, is this what it takes? Because I'm not making it. If this is what it takes, I'm not making it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
at some point in your career, and I know you felt it, I felt it, everyone's felt it, except for, some elite few, but you're going to run into players in situations that are better than you. And when I say better than you, I'm saying that you have not learned how to prepare for that situation yet. So there's always going to be talent. Every time you're in high school and you go to college, let's say you go to D2, let's say you go to JUCO, let's say you go D1, so you get drafted. They're going to be better than you.
Mm.
It's just that's just the way it is. I think when I was in college, I think Notre Dame had the highest dropout rate in the country. These kids were all valedictorians, but when they got to school, everyone else was valedictorian too.
Ah,
Baseball's the same way. Everywhere you go, they're going to be better than you. You'll never be. Everyone is. You're always going to look around and be like, "Oh shit." That type of mindset of like, okay, I can play, but how do I get better?
mm.
The mental side of things for me is huge. And I learned this late because I made a lot of mistakes in my playing career. I always, like when I was in the minor leagues, I always wasted time. I worried about what the organization thought of me. Like, am I a prospect? Am I
Oh,
gonna be
same, dude.
am I gonna, and I just spun my wheels in this mud of worry and negativity, and honestly just wasted my time and energy thinking about what others thought of me. It doesn't matter.
Same.
Doesn't matter. Now, what I've learned later on in life and what I've had to use later on in life, and I'm so happy that I did, is understanding. And I'll give you a couple books that have been recommended, and I've read a lot of them. But the thing for me moving forward, I have to remember to myself is that I am in complete control of how I react to my situations. I'm not in control of what happens to me at all. I'm not in control of life. I'm not in control of the decisions that others make. I'm not in control of life whatsoever in that regard. But the crazy thing is I'm 100% in control about how I respond to them. That's completely under my control, my effort, my thought process. My Marcus Aurelius talked about this in Rome, dude, back before we even knew what was going on. There's a ton of literature
I
about,
read his book.
dude, you start talking about like understanding where you're at in life and this and that, no matter what happens to you, you build, first of all, your mind will build, a terrarium of this is my world. Okay. And then everything that happens in that, I've already made up. And how I respond to that's completely up to me. Now things happen and it's way easier said than done. It's not something that you learn and then just execute from here on out. It's a practice. It's a habit of constantly reminding yourself, this is how I'm in control. Um, for me, I try to get in cold water all the time, and I hate it, dude. I hate it. But I tell myself every single time, dude, I respond. Like how I respond to this is my choice.
Ooh,
So when I get in cold water, like it's November, dude, it's freezing outside. But I can get in the water and I can hate it. And the difference between discipline and motivation is like, oh yeah, I feel good. I'm motivated to do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's be positive. Discipline's discipline's doing it whether you want to or not. Now that's just an example of something that you could do. You're in charge of how you respond to that water. You scared of the water? Are you scared in baseball? Are you scared of the ball? If you're scared of the ball, dude, you need to, like we need to
yeah,
readjust. I'm not scared of the ball. That's what you tell yourself. And then after time, you're like, nah, dude, I'm not scared of the ball. Fucking let's go.
100%. Those mental stuff like that.
Anything, dude. So you can read books, dude. You can get in cold water, dude, for a couple minutes. You can challenge yourself. So I wrote these down. Okay, one book called Do Hard Things by Steve Magnus. Have you read it?
No, but it's on the list. I actually have it. I actually own it. So I do this thing, dude, where when I hear people like that I respect, that I look up to, I try to emulate, right? I try to learn from their success. When they speak about like a book that has helped them, or they like reference a book, dude, I write it down on a sticky note. I put it on the wall. And I have a wall full of sticky notes. Dude, when I just finished the dichotomy of leadership, right?
Yeah,
Jocko was in there.
yeah,
Man, so like whenever I knock off a book, I go and grab another one. One I'm
dude, I
reading now
love.
is Lucky Me. Lucky Me, the
Yeah,
CEO of Clutch Sports. I'm
yeah.
reading that now, dude. I'm obsessed with it. Not to cut you off, sorry, dude.
No, dude.
Hijacked
How
you.
about
Do hard things.
Jocko spoke to the team one time, and I was just blown away, dude. I was blown away by his
You saw
fortitude.
him in person.
Yeah, dude spoke to the
Is
team.
he that? Is he as
Yes,
like
dude. More,
so
more.
his good speech, like good, right? That speech, dude. They play that in spring training. The Mariners, dude. That's where I was introduced to it. Blown away.
If you can think, dude, and here's what's crazy about that. Let's say you're playing, whatever, you fly to so and so, and you're playing, and the game gets delayed 2 hours. What's the first thing that everybody thinks? Like, jeez, dude.
Damn.
But what if you said, "Good, I'm gonna be ready. I'm gonna be this. This works out better for me
More time to prepare.
because, well, and I'm not saying I'm gonna do anything different, but I know in my head I can get in a situation, and whether I can or can't, this is what I'm telling myself. You know what I mean? Like this is
Yeah.
why I'm talking to myself in the mirror, like in my head. I'm like, dude, good. They're gonna worry about this. I'm not. So like when he says that and he gives he gives that those examples of like good. Now he's talking about different stuff in baseball.
But there's
But
shitty situations that he looks at positive
exactly.
almost.
So the concept is like, dude, I what you can count on is that somebody else is going to be affected by something. Somebody's going to give into something. And if you can make it not you, just like you're hitting. We talked about that when you're hitting. Dude, somebody's going to give in. He's going to throw a dookie little backdoor slider to get ahead. And then he's going to throw a high fastball or a high cutter around your hands to try to make you think that you're worried about both sides of the plate. Meanwhile, neither of them affected you whatsoever because you're looking in your zone. The next pitch is a changeup down. And now he's going to throw a little sinker down the way. And you've been looking out over the whole time. And it doesn't matter what the count is. He gave in. He tried to get back in the count and you whacked his ass. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what the situation is, the mindset still kind of plays. Now, his is obviously way more serious,
Yeah.
but the concept of like somebody else is going to be worried about this, but it's not going to be me. Good,
Good.
dude. Make it as hard as possible. Good. Dude, I love that. Dude, when he said that, I was like, whoa.
It's something that like I still reference it, dude. I still reference it, and I feel almost not like embarrassed when I say it, but like it's outlandish when I say it. Like, oh,
Yeah,
your girlfriend just broke up with you before this, varsity game, dude.
good.
Good. You know what I mean? Good. More time to study, more time to train. Like you know, I try to relay the message, dude. But it's that's fire. You got to see him in person, dude. But
No, it's perfect, dude.
yeah,
So, I mean, that mindset, just something I read last year. I'm gonna read again. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan
yes,
Holiday.
dude. I have that book as well. I have that book as well.
Okay,
Black
dude,
it.
and it's true, and like I've failed at this for years. The only way to it, dude, is through it. That's it, dude. Like I'm worried about doing this and that. I'm not very good at that, so I'll try to avoid it. That's not what winners do.
Attack it.
That's not what winners do. If you have something, and dude, it's the problem is it's so hard. But you come out of that. You come out of that hardened where other people avoid it. So like back to what we were talking about, if you see things as, hey man, what a good opportunity for me. I'm gonna come out of it. I'm gonna come out of this hard.
Yeah.
Or I can avoid it, be comfortable, and be soft. Like I said, dude, like I said, and I struggle with it and I fail at it more times than not, and I'm working on it. But I think that that is the right thing to do. If something's hard, attack it, go through it, dude. The obstacle is the way. That's a good book. Ryan Holiday, Atomic Habits. You read Atomic Habits?
Mm-mm, of like the highly successful
Talks
people.
about building routines. Talks about process. Talks about everything. A lot of good recommendations from our mental skills guy for Atomic Habits. Good. Obstacle is the way. Must
Mm,
read. Must read. Do Hard Things. Steve Magnus. Must read. Um, Legacy by James Kerr. Have you read that?
mm-mm.
Check that out.
Okay.
And So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport.
Ooh, I like that title.
Those would be my book recommendations. But and if you don't read, dude, it's a podcast. You know, everyone gets information from anywhere. But the point is that you're personally trying to develop yourself. You're personally trying to get better. Because, like I said, dude, it hit me when I was 17. I was like, yo, dude, these dudes can ball. So where am I? You know, where's this? Where do I fall? Where does this make me? And it's not going to stop. And I can't imagine that I would ever want it to stop. If I don't keep getting better, if I don't keep getting, more and more in tune with what I'm trying to do or what I need help with, because I've struggled a lot, and I'm going to continue to struggle. Anything that I do that's hard, I'll struggle with. But you come out of it and you try, you know what I mean? You try to put yourself in a good position, realizing that it's a good opportunity for you. And then you see where you are at the end of it. And then you just keep going. But and like I said, I've failed more times than I've succeeded. And I've been lucky and totally blessed to be in the position that I'm in. But, like if we're talking about, talking to somebody that's in high school, talking to some kid that's in middle school, talking to some kid that's in college, and starting to understand like how to prepare for what's coming, dude, these kids, these dudes explain it better than I can. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
it.
I would check that stuff out because you learn about what processes look like. You learn about what routines look like. You learn about what good self talk is, how to be positive, how to see the good. You learn about how to attack hard things, make sure that like you do things that challenge you. So like then in 5 years you look back, and I've talked to my wife about this. It's like, dude, some of the things that I've always said to myself is when I'm struggling, I just think one day in the future, I'm going to look back at this and laugh about how worked up I was about this, about how much this
Mm,
affected me.
and you
I'm going
had
to
it
look back.
easy.
I'm going to look back at this and say, like, you dumbass.
Yeah, you wish you had those problems now.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to look back at this and be like, that's so stupid. I worried about that.
100%. That's a good way of like looking at it. A mature way of
But
looking
dude, I'll end with this, man. I heard our mental skills guy talk, and this dude's a wizard, and I love him, and I love
at
everything he does, and I love everything he says. But one thing that hit me was like, all like everybody always talks about like all the good ones are like hard on themselves and they're driven and da 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 this and that. Dude, he said one thing one day, and I was like,
it.
he said, talk to yourself like you're talking to a friend, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I thought about it, dude. If like when I hit a bad shot in golf, when I fail at, at baseball, when I'm, ill prepared, I just get so mad at myself because I have high standards. But dude, I would never, ever speak to a peer, speak to a teammate, speak to a family member the way that I speak to myself.
Yeah.
I'm so negative and hard on myself. And it's like, dude, if you can just give yourself a little bit of grace and understand that we're going to fail a ton, dude. Game's hard. Life's hard. But if you give yourself some grace and say, hey, man, you know, as opposed to saying, you dumbass,
Yeah.
you say, hey, man, hey, that wasn't it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you talk to somebody in a way that you're trying to help them, because when you talk to yourself, dude, you're talking in the mirror. Somebody's talking to you. It's just actually you.
Yeah.
So you talk to yourself just like you talking to a teammate you're trying to pick up. Dude, game changer.
Positive. I love that. I
You're
love
just saying
that.
you're not breaking yourself down. And now you start to reflect on what you've done. You start to reflect on what you could do better. You start to reflect on how you're going to be better prepared for the next time. And you're not beating yourself down. You give yourself a little bit of grace, create some positivity, create some energy, dude. Create a little inertia, create a little momentum moving forward, dude. And now you're more ready for the next opportunity.
Yeah. Oh,
But
you're
dude,
open.
that was big for me, man. Is like not be so hard on yourself and you. I'm not saying have low standards. I'm not saying settle. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying like the self talk, dude. Be respectful. You know what I mean,
Amen. Amen. Griff, man, thank you
dude?
for
I love
dude,
it.
your time. Thank you for your expertise, sharing your stories, your experiences, man, what you've seen, man, what you've been around. Dude, I absolutely love this. People,
No, it's huge.
players are going to get a
Huge.
lot out of this.
I hope this, gets to people, and I hope it helps. I hope it, I hope you keep doing what you're doing, dude. I know you're doing good things, dude. I'm just proud to know you and proud to have been a part of your career.
Love it.
I'm
Love it.
happy to be here, bro.
Thank you. Griffin Benedict, man, thank you for being on. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. Have a happy Thanksgiving.